Hi guys, and to my Korean friends, 안녕하세요. Thanks for joining me again. My name is Anne, and on my channel, I review foreign shows. Like I always say, we are the friends to the subtitle. And you know what I mean if you've conquered the subtitle. You're able to watch and read at the same time. And like I always say, if the show is really, really good, you forget you're reading. So for any of my new friends joining me today and you feel like you're having a hard time with that, just keep going. Our brains are really beautiful. Before you know it, you adapt and you are watching excellent content and you forget you're reading, like I say, and we're learning culture, we're learning food. It's just excellent. We're learning language. So thanks for joining me again. And today, as we travel around the world, we are back in South Korea, and this is a really, really excellent show. And actually, one of my viewers recommended this, and I want to thank you very much. I'm so glad you recommended this because it's a really, really excellent show. It really deals with corporate world. If you ever worked in a corporate world, here in America, we call it corporate America, then you can definitely relate with a lot of things that were going on with this show. So this show is in the workplace genre, and I really felt like they did an excellent job exploring all the different aspects and struggles that happen in a corporate job. I really felt like they explored the difference between people who work in a corporate job, how they're looked at, versus how people say who work in manual labor jobs like the factory. They had an excellent scene about that discussion and how maybe the factory workers or people who do manual labor can think that people who work in corporate offices are weak, if you will. But I love how they explored and kind of bring it together to show how we are all kind of interconnected, you know, how decisions made in corporate offices do come down to manual laborers, and at the same time the conditions of how people who work in manual jobs also help the people who work in corporate jobs. Just because you come up with a plan, it has to be produced, so we're kind of all important, if you will. Just we all play different roles. I also loved the idea of, you know, having interns and they're coming into a new job. And the way they explored this show was so interesting. It starts off with where they have these interns who get into a job. And so the idea is you're there for a while, and in the end, you're tested by coming up with a project, and you need to work with a partner to kind of prove yourself as to why you deserve to have a permanent job in this company. And I thought what was very interesting is how they showed, depending on who you assigned to as a young intern, showed a different struggle. One boss was more encouraging and nurturing, which really the main character of this show had one of those bosses. His friends, one had one who was very critical, who wanted him to review the paperwork over and over and over, almost like, look, I need you to put your pride down and really get to learn the basics. You know, I know you went to these big schools, but remember, when it's real life, you kind of have to prove yourself. I like that they explored that. I like that they explored about women in the workplace and how it was crazy. This girl in the show was being, she's educated, she's earned her right to be there, but she's working with his male counterparts and they treat her like she's a secretary. Go get the coffee, go make the copies for, go print this, go print that, just like a secretary, go do this, instead of treating her like as a equal member, you know. And you have to keep watching because everything evolves. And then there was the other one who was a kind of a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and he had a boss who was crooked, and it was kind of like, how do I work under this guy and he is doing things the shady way? So they really explored a lot of things. I really, really loved this show. And if all, if you've ever worked in corporate America, corporate world, wherever you are in the world, all this drama happens in an office. And I felt like they really covered it all. So let's go ahead and actually meet the characters of this show. The name of the show is Misaeng, is the name of the show. And actually, I did look it up. The name Misaeng means an incomplete life. And it makes sense because the main character, when we're introduced to him, it makes sense why it was called that, just because he's young and he's just starting out on life. So let's go ahead and meet the cast of the show. So the main character of the show, his name is C1. That's the name of the actor. And to me, this is the first time I'm seeing him. I've watched a lot of Korean dramas, but this is the first time I'm seeing him. I'm not sure if he's done anything else. If he has, please do comment below. I'll be glad to check him out because I think he did an excellent job. I would love to see more of his work. And he plays a young man who, by the way, is raised up playing this board game. I believe it's a Chinese game that I guess is very played a lot in Korea called Baduk. It looks like chess, but they use stones to play with it. Take a look at it. So he grows up playing that game and he's really good. And he was gonna go far. And I love how they used the knowledge that he learned to play that game and the rules and how to manage a stressful situation or an opponent. Really, he translated that information to the workplace. And that was really even more important in the fact that he was not able to go for higher education. I believe, I think he went up to his high school GED. That's all he had. And then he's going to work in a corporate world where his friends have been to universities. Some have even traveled abroad, like United States, to learn English and different kind of languages. His counterparts speak different languages. I mean, in this show, it was really impressive. They're speaking German, they're speaking English, they were speaking Russian, Chinese, Japanese. I was just like, wow. So he is recommended to come to this company to work there. And we just know that he's been recommended by, I believe he's the head of the company or director. And people are like, wow. So he came in by connections because clearly he doesn't have the education. And that really becomes like his sword to bear the whole time. He's never good enough. I'm not good enough because I never got the education like the others have. And I really liked that aspect because what it really explores was the difference between book smart and street smart. I believe his street smarts and even playing this game of Baduk made him so smart. Like the ideas he'd come up with were genius, which really helped. You have to watch. There's a scene where they're all auditioning really for their jobs to see if they'll come back to work for the company. And it was a discussion between corporate workers and factory workers who works harder. And obviously the idea of corporate workers are always looked as soft, and people who work in the industry of factory maybe not so smart, I guess. That's why they're doing the manual labor. And how they both went back and forth about how it's important. It was a really fantastic scene. And he uses slippers, because when in Korea, it seems like it, I don't think a lot of world companies or the rest of the world does this, but in Korea, when you go to work, you're wearing your nice shoes. When you get to work, you take out your regular shoes and put on slippers. So they all walk in, slippers in the office, and then when it's time to leave, then you put your shoes again and leave to go. And his point was trying to prove why even people who work in the corporate world also have their share of struggles, where obviously manual labor, factory work can look so obvious. Well, you're physically moving things and you're physically could easily get hurt because of a machine, how can you say that our job is not harder than yours? And his point was to say, just because your feet in the factory are sweaty from the boots does not mean that our feet are not sweating in our dress shoes, because we have projects that we have to present and we have to make sure that it makes business sense. And we are sweating in our feet as well. And the point was, here we wear slippers because our feet are also sweaty and because we're also working as hard too. And the project has to make sense, and we have to do research to make sure it's gonna make money. And if you do the wrong thing, we could lose the business, and then you in the factory have nothing to do. I really, really love that scene. And I'm not sure about anybody else, if you've seen this show, if you are also like me. I was like stressing out for him. I'm like, please speak up. Oh my God, somebody help him, come with the right thing to say. And oh my gosh, he would every single time come up spectacularly. Like it's one of those shows, like if you love one of those underdogs rising up, ooh, this show. I mean, when he did that presentation, I found myself tearing up, like, oh my God, he did it. It was so good. It was so good. I found myself clapping, like, good job. Nice answer, right? That's what it felt like. The whole show, you just like, come on, you got this. I know you don't have education, but you're determined. And when he's given a challenge, like they told him, okay, you may not have gone to school, so some of these terms that we're using, you may not know them. So go learn. And oh my God, he grabbed the book and he would study it like the dictionary, and he would speak these words. They would ask him a question and he was coming like that. Oh, it was so impressive, so good. It goes to show, just because you don't go all the way to college, and for him it was a case of parents couldn't afford, and you have to keep watching, because they kept on showing us this scene where he's at a funeral, his mom is crying, and the assumption is that it was his dad's funeral, and that's why he had to drop out of playing the game and going pro as far as playing Baduk, and had to go start working regular jobs so to help pay the bills and help mom. And you have to keep watching, and actually I have to say, you have to keep watching at the end, episode 20, when the credits have rolled up and it ends, because I almost missed it too. They explain why he came here, because really in most corporate jobs, even to just walk into the door, you have to have the education. The question in the whole show that the viewer is left wondering is what did he do that merited him for the director to say, I know he doesn't have the education, but give him a shot. At the end, it's like the 10 seconds before the whole show is over, they show why. And it's that scene where he's crying, the mom is crying, and they're at a funeral. I was just like, oh my God, that is why he came here. Because I was wondering, what is the connection? What is the connection? They tell that connection at the end. I can't tell you. You have to watch it, because what's the fun in me telling you? You have to experience it for yourself, because it's really, really good. The next cast member we meet, her name is Kang Sora. And actually, I have seen her before. She was in a show, I reviewed it. Take a look at it below, called Revolutionary Love. Excellent actress. And obviously she played one of those interns who was very, very smart. And as a girl, obviously it felt like even as a woman, she has to like prove herself even 10 times more in a men's world. At the same time, it's almost like they still treated her as the secretary, like I had said before. And obviously she had to show how smart she was for her to be like, wow, she's got it. She's one of us. And she earns that respect. They really put her through it. I mean, those times I was just like, girl, quit. It's not even worth it. All these men are chauvinists. They don't care about you. I mean, they would really say really hurtful things like, this is why I don't like working with women, because women are so emotional. I mean, they knew how to discourage you, but thank God she stuck with it, which was a good lesson. Sometimes we quit too easily just because something is hard, but she stuck through it, and thank God that she stuck through it. Her results of her work showed why she deserved to be there, and they gave her, at the end, it's like they respect her and they gave her her props for what she did, and start to consider her as one of the members, which was really, really excellent. They do explore her storyline as having this father, the idea of parents depending on their children for money, and he would constantly get these loans. They're about to get evicted, and constantly calling the daughter for money, and she's trying to pay off all these loans. That was kind of really heartbreaking to see, because it's like, my God, like, give the girl a break. She just made a little money that she always have to bail you out. So that was interesting that they also explored that topic. And then the next cast member is Ha-neul, who, by the way, I love. I reviewed a show called When the Camellia Blooms. Now, this show was done a few years back. When the Camellia Blooms, I believe, was done last year. It was very excellent. I believe it even won awards. Kang's character in the show When the Camellia Blooms, OMG, he is an excellent actor. He plays this goofy, comes off like he's naive and not smart, funny guy, and he was just excellent in that show. Now, in this show, he is smart as a whip. On the other hand, he's also very, because he's smart as a whip, he has a little bit of an arrogance to him, because he's like, I'm smart, I know. He can go out there. He's the guy you send out the room to like sell, because he talks like very well. He's very confident. And so when he gets assigned to be on this team, this guy who's supposed to be his manager, like, saw that pride, and the way he chose to break his pride was painful. I mean, first of all, he ignored him. He would say, how can I help you today? Like, what do you think I should work on? And then the manager would be like, nothing, I got this. And he's sitting there thinking, what am I doing here if you're not even gonna give me something to do? And he's the kind of guy, you could tell he just thrives in doing things. And he was just felt so limited. Actually, his first day at the job, he came with a proposal. This is what I think we should do. And although it was nice that he has a zeal as a young person, it was almost like, slow your roll. There's rules to what we do here. It's just not throwing out an idea. There's different procedures that have to be followed to finally get there. You just don't come and throw your idea that way. And really, that's what he was trying to teach him, but he taught him in such a hard way. There was one point, even I was just like, I think he just hates him. I don't think he's ever gonna help him. He just wants him to fail. To the point where he was looking for another job and was ready to quit. And then once again, it's the same thing. He persevered and he worked hard, and his manager was like, okay, it seems like, first of all, that pride has come down of, I'm educated, I can do this, and the director recognized me, and you've come down to earth, and then now let's do some work. And once he was there, I felt like the manager was like, okay, do this, do that. And at the end, I loved how their relationship evolved to the point where I felt like they became good friends. But was it ever painful to watch him just being ignored, acting like I don't see you. I mean, he at one point he confronted his boss and was like, you just hate me. And I'm not sure what I did to you, but I can see you automatically hate me. And the boss is more like, you're more stuck on the emotions, but okay, just this guy could not be moved. But an excellent lesson there too, because we all know if you have one of those managers who they're not always gonna be warm, fuzzy, and I'm so sorry. No, it's business. It's not personal, like they always say, right? Unlike C1's character, who had an excellent boss, who, by the way, is being played by Lee Sang-min. Oh, he was like the boss of all bosses. He's the one all of us would like to have, but we all know all managers cannot be like that. He's the kind who, once he gets you, he wants to nurture you. And that was really what he did with C1. And he would listen to him, and actually most of the ideas he came up with, he would put them through, which were very successful. And actually you have to keep watching, because there's one spot where C1's character, they're trying to do this project and they find corruption. That was an excellent scene, by the way, of this character who's being played by Kyeong-yeong's character, where he apparently in the past had done this deal that was very successful. So they bring him to the company and he's working with them. And then they start to see some things just don't add up. So when they go to look into it, they find corruption. And you have to see how that goes down, because the other thing that they taught was, so if you see something wrong, and that person has to be reprimanded, sometimes that also means the higher up have to be reprimanded. And unfortunately, in that scene, and you have to watch that, that was so good. The director who was overseeing that group also got to lose his job, which is things that sometimes, we people, if you work in the front lines and you just think, oh, I'm just trying to expose this. Sometimes exposing this can expose all of this. So the consequences are not just felt down here, they're felt all the way to the top. And at one point, C1's character was like, wow, was it really worth like blowing the whistle, if you will? But we all know those are necessary. On the other hand, with a huge consequence. And I know there's many people out there who would not put themselves out like that. Even when we've all worked in places where you're just like, whoa, I don't know, where you're feeling like something is off. And even I know people who may have even seen something that wasn't the best or not up to procedure and chose not to say anything just because, I don't want to be the whistleblower and I don't want to get my boss in trouble. I don't want to get the company in trouble, So there's a lot of they talk, kind of like explore that whole moral dilemma of a company. And if you have to report something, what does that mean as far as consequence? Yeah, on one hand, which we saw, they get praised for exposing something bad. On the other hand, you also see the consequence where people are losing their jobs, as well as now the other people who work with you start to think, oh my God, I'm scared of him. What if he finds out I'm doing something wrong? Is he gonna go tell? Nobody wants a snitch, right? That kind of thing. So I think they really explored that very well. The other character who's also playing as an intern is Byug-yo-han. And for me, this is the first time also seeing him. Also an excellent actor. I felt like I loved his character and the fact that he was the easygoing, happy guy. And actually the way they introduced him at the beginning of the show, he looked like he was a womanizer, would like to look at women when they walked by with the short skirts. And actually I think his name was, he's a pervert. So really a lot of people did not like working with him, but he came from the side of working with like construction worker, manual labor work people. And even we're told that his dad was one of them. And even to the point where they explored the fact that people who work in corporate jobs always looked better than people who work manual jobs, which even as a kid, he would get teased that, oh, your dad works in a factory. He doesn't work in a office like our dads, where he grew up feeling inferior for that. So for that reason, he was really he played a key role in advocating for manual labor people. There's even a scene where his manager, who was a terrible guy, just a user is the correct word, he could use people with money. He would make contracts that didn't think about people. There's one contract he had done and it affected the manual labor people, and they came complaining because they're like, there is no way we can get all that stuff out well, we're working with machines that are old. He didn't care. Byung Johan's character had to go talk to the people in the factory because he could understand where they're coming from, and was able to clean things up like that. But you have to keep watching. That was a really good storyline because sometimes you just work with a crappy, crooked boss, and he worked with a very crooked guy. And even there's one section you gotta keep watching where he finds out this guy is having an affair with a married woman. And it's like, can you imagine finding that out about your own boss? And he was tempted because this guy was so evil to be like, well, I'm just gonna expose these pictures and let him get it. But you have to keep watching because, like they always say, karma is a bee. His day of reckoning came, and it was no fun. The other character that we see in this show, who I've seen before, is Kim Dae-myung. He was actually, I reviewed this show. He was in Hospital Playlist. Take a look at that. He was a really good mentor, like a good mentor to C1. He worked in the same group. I believe they were Team 3. And he really was kind of the in-between guy between C1 and Lee Sung's character, because Lee Sung was their boss. And he really mentored him and explained to him, obviously, how things worked. And more importantly, he became his friend. I mean, he came to visit him at home because he wanted to know, like, why are you the way you are? I feel like I need to personally know your past to really understand how you've come to where you're at. And in the end, they just really, like, you could work somewhere and you meet great coworkers and you become lifelong friends. That was the case with Team 3, where it was just like, we're gonna be friends for the rest of our lives. When you get married, I'm coming to your wedding, coming to your kids' birthday parties. And we all know, if you've worked somewhere where you had really bad coworkers, you just like, if I leave that job, I never want to see you. Deuces, like, I don't want to see you ever again. That was not the case with Team 3. They were so close with each other. I love their relationship in the fact that even you could tell the other teams got jealous by just the relationship, So he did an excellent job. So I'd say, in conclusion, just a fantastic show, exploring the culture of corporate world. And if you've ever worked in any corporate world or even manual labor work, this show was just a pleasure to watch because you could so relate. As you're watching the show, I found myself being like, yep, I remember when I had that same situation happen. I also felt like, just because they were talking about different business terms, you learn stuff. Like, I did not know about this concept of guanxi. I believe it's a Chinese thing, where they explored, unlike, say, Western world, like America, if I'm going to do business with another company, we just go and do research about that company, their numbers, what kind of a culture they are, do they make money? Really, that's the focus. In Chinese, or in China, it sounds like guanxi, which they explored, is a case of where relationships are huge. Yeah, they look at the numbers and they look about the company's culture, but you building that relationship with that manager or that CEO, and then this involves, like, not just work relationships, it's talking about even outside of work relationship. We're talking about, you need to come for that dinner when I invite you to that. When I invite you to come to my daughter's wedding or a birthday, you come. That is part of guanxi, they called it, because we're not building just business, we're also building relationship. And once they feel like we've built that relationship real good, both personal and business, then we can sign the deal. So they actually explore the fact that sometimes it takes a long time to get a deal or do a deal in China, just because it takes a while to build that guanxi. However, once, it's almost like a club. Once you're in, then you're in, And then so that means that once you're in and say you do a business with this person, and then you decide now I want to work with this person, but as long as they're all part of the Quanxi group, you can really navigate fast into it because we've like proven you not only business but as well as relationship, which was very interesting. And there was an aspect of it that they explored where people said that sometimes Quanxi can be looked as a bribe, really, because somebody would say, if I come to your daughter's wedding because we're building that Quanxi relationship, you have to come to mine. And it's almost like if I give, it's give and take, where especially in the Western world, it's usually just business. Look, this is what I'm selling, this is what you're buying, we do the exchange, no strings attached. With Quanxi, it feels like strings are always attached, right? If I scratch your back, you're scratching my back, okay? And it's not just corporate, it's not just corporate, it's also personal, okay? And so some people have, I guess some have complained that it could also be considered like maybe like a bribe thing, but I can see both ways in the fact that relationships are important, I guess their model is not, it's just business, it's not personal. With them, it's personal and it's business is kind of what the idea was, but a really fantastic show. I felt like they dealt with all the different aspects of things that happen in a corporate world, job, between different ranks, between the issues of who's got more education than the other, between street smarts and book smart, between men and women working in the same job. There was one lady who was higher up, and it showed the stress. She's leading a group, and she's also a mother. They actually really explored that mom's guilt, where she goes to drop off her daughter, but she's so busy on the phone, she doesn't even take a chance to look at the daughter to say goodbye. And the daughter draws a picture of the mom with no face. It's almost like she never sees her mother's face. All she ever sees the back of her head, dropping her off, picking her up. And really, it's almost like, I don't know your face, mom, because you're always gone. And so I love that scene because the mother gets it. And then she actually says to the daughter, can you draw a picture of me today? And she's looking at her daughter's face. And the daughter was like, of course I will draw a picture of you with your face, because she's looking at her mother's face for the first time for a long time, where I see you, So really an excellent, fantastic show. I believe you're gonna really, really enjoy it. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. Kamsahamnida. And join me again when I review another excellent foreign show. Don't forget to subscribe, turn that notification button on, and when I review another excellent show, you can join me. Thank you. Deuces.